welcome to a Pioneer brainstorming. The Pioneer format is now on Magic Online. I'm so excited to see that in the drop down here. Let's make our deck box gold since we have no idea what we're about to do. So this brainstorm is a literal brainstorm. I'm just clicking on Pioneer here and I'm going to really just start looking for ideas, find something that's going to make me excited to brew, something that, you know, I might have maybe a card I found from an old set that I used to really enjoy, something that, you know, never quite got there in standard, but maybe with a larger card pool it can get there. So, you know, we'll see around and see what we can find. Looking around here, back in my Khans of Tarkir days. God, I drafted this set so much. Going back a bit further. Just kind of getting an overall view of how many cards I have and how far back they go, especially towards the beginning of Pioneer, which, if I remember correctly, is Return to Ravnica block and Core 14. So we got Theros, we got Ravnica here. Is anything standing out here? Shadowborn Apostles. Not sure if that's the way I want to go, but I mean, that could be something funny. Xenagos is there. Spellheart Chimera. Huh. This is actually just a strictly better Enigma Drake, so let's start there. Maybe we can do a kind of Drake's deck? Crackling Drake. Yeah, maybe that's the way we want to go. See if we can upgrade the deck list that was available relatively recently and just break it with some treasure cruises. Hold on. There we go. How do I not have any treasure cruise? Really? Huh. Or maybe dig through time would be better. Yeah, dig through time is actually probably better here. Same CMC for overall, but a lot more selection. I think we want more. I don't know. Let's try out all of them and just see what we can do. These are the most busted cards ever out there, so adding in some opts because this is really the best cantrip we have when it comes to keeping things inexpensive. No Serum Vision. Let's just look for anything that says draw a card on it. Because really, I don't know the full extent of what cantrips look like in this format. I mean, you tell me modern, I tell you, okay, you have your choice. Serum Visions and Opt are the best. Then you can kind of look at... This might be interesting. Let me throw one in here. Ooh, Merchant of the Veil. Okay, so there are a couple in here, mainly just because, like, it gives you that kind of Faithless Looting effect. This new Thrill of Possibility here can give us some more in the round of just drawing extra cards. Royal Scions, really overpowered. Just getting you to get through your deck, drawing cards, putting things in the graveyard, helping fuel Delve, helping your Crackling Drake and your Spellheart Chimeras to be a little bit more powerful. Let's look up some early removals here as well. Magma Spray seems solid. No lightning bolts. I guess lightning strike is it, but I don't know if I want to go that way. Chemister's Insight might be kind of good, but I don't know if we want to do that. Is there anything that lets us get up some cards? Let's look at some draw twos. See what we have available. Chemister's Insight comes to mind, but that's really just because of the recent set. Winged Words is a thing. Discounting mana. Oh, discounting mana? If we want to be really proactive with this, and especially because we're lacking 1 mana cantrips, let's throw some Goblin Electromancers in here, and yeah, let's go for some Winged Words. It's basically a divination, but because we have a decent amount of flyers, we may be able to make it a little better here. And with a Goblin Electromancer, it could just sometimes be an Ancestral Recall, so let's round it out with some lands. Shocklands being the best lands in the format. Mystic Sanctuary has impressed me, getting some cards back out of our graveyard in case we need it. You know, we dump a lot of things into our graveyard. Sometimes you might want to buy them back. Fabled Passage kind of is the fetch land of the format, so let's bring some of those in here. Bring up just something to help fuel the graveyard again and thin out our deck a little bit so that our draws are a little better. Not as good as if we had real fetch lands, but hey, it works. Yeah, Spire Bluff Canal also looks really good here, so let's put 4 in here. Alright. I'm really particular in my deck builds. I love the unhinged lands, so whenever I go for basics, that's what I'm going for. Looking at the pips here, I'm seeing a little bit more blue, so I'm going to lean a little bit heavier towards that. Probably 2 island, 2 mountain, leave Mystic Sanctuaries as islands for just straight out blue sources, and then have everything else be basically blue and red. I don't know. Like, this is literally just me throwing ideas out there, and you're just watching me figure out what the best cards can be as I'm kind of throwing everything together. Now let's cut down on these. An opening hand would be really bad if we had multiple Mystic Sanctuaries. Now let's cut 3 of them, or 1 of them down to 3. Shockland, Checkland, Fast Land seems really good, along with a few basics. And this is the start. Now, of course, this isn't the final. Let's take this Witching Well out of here. That seems like a bit underwhelming overall. This is the start of what I have here. Not the strongest I've seen, but I feel like there might be a shell here that we can work with. And again, the whole point of this is to really just throw things together and see how it looks. You know, from having spent so much time just studying deck lists and looking at how decks are built, you get a kind of intuitive sense as to when a deck is starting to get near a solid form. Now, I'm also factoring in a couple of assumptions about this format. I feel like this is not going to be a format that is super loaded with 1-drops because Pioneer is just not as big as the Modern format. The number of 1-drops that'll do the same thing as other 2-drops in the format are going to be few and far between. So maybe this is more of a turn 2 play is a better deal. But it really just depends. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know about this format because we haven't really played it much. There haven't been any big tournaments. Nothing has really happened yet to give us a kind of backdrop against which we should judge this deck. So just looking at this as it is right now, a couple of things come to mind. Merchant of the Veil doesn't seem hugely inspirational in this. It's really just churning through our deck. I don't think I'm ever going to want to cast it as a... Oh, how did I miss this? I'm putting together a Drake's deck, and I didn't grab my Arclight Phoenixes. Get in there, friend. Okay, so now this deck is feeling a lot better. Gives us a little bit more incentive to be dumping things into our graveyard, casting as many spells as we can, incentivizes us to get a little bit more out of our Electromancers. Although, having said that, looking at this, we're not going to want to delve away our Arclight Phoenixes. Spellheart Chimera doesn't really work well with our delve cards. Royal Scions is a good looting engine. It's basically a pay once for a Desolate Lighthouse and then just kind of keep going at it, and has some other utility as well, which might get our Crackling Drakes and Arclight Phoenixes to punch a little harder in the air. Having said that, let's cut Treasure Cruise here. I feel like we can only really play one of the two, either Treasure Cruise or Dig Through Time, and I think Dig Through Time is just overall better for us. Helps us find what we need, helps us find our enablers and or our payoffs to just kind of breeze through this. Might get us, you know, a couple of spells that we can cast once we have a good amount of mana on the field to be able to get our Arclight Phoenixes back. And I think I do want Fabled Passages in here after all. Oop, not the foil one. Yeah, I think 3 Fabled Passage. Having Fabled Passages early, slowing you down, is not great, but I do still want some to be able to fill up our graveyard and find a couple of our basics. But there's also just going to be times where I draw a basic or two, and then having a 4th Fabled Passage is kind of terrible. What else do I cut? I guess a Magma Spray. I will also note that this really isn't the best in terms of removal overall. Put some Anger of the Gods in the sideboard, my kind of go-to in removal. I'm assuming that early on, this format is either going to be super aggressive, like mono red decks everywhere. What's another good engine to... Oh, Jace Vryn's Prodigy is legal in there. Yeah, let's look at this. Okay, let's put some Jaces. Yeah, let's put Jaces in the sideboard for now. I don't know if this deck actually wants it or not. I think we might actually just put this in the main board. Jace Vryn's Prodigy is too good. It was basically one of the most warping cards in the standard format around the time of early Pioneer here. Yeah, let's put 3 Jaces in. Let's just cut these Royal Scions. The Royal Scion seems really good, but a 3-mana play versus a 2-mana play is a big difference. And I think Jace is probably just like the best 2-mana play. It forces your opponent to do something, and if they can't, then it lets you run away with the game a little bit. Dump some things into your yard for your Spellheart Chimera and Crackling Phoenix. Build up Delve for Dig Through Time. Yeah, this might work. I do want some card velocity here, so things like Winged Words are really good. Again, really, if we can get that to be an Ancestral Recall with a Goblin Electromancer on the field and any of our flyers, that would just feel wonderful. Let's look at Merchant of the Veil here. I feel like we may just want to put 4 out and then either just cast it as a creature to continue our looting in case we start running low on things. I'm going to put that over here in the 1-drop slot because really we're playing this for the Haggle spell, not so much for Merchant of the Veil. Maybe cut a couple of Spellheart Chimeras. They really get worse once you start delving for Dig Through Time or start recurring anything out of your graveyard. 2 of them seems good, especially since now we also have Phoenix and Drake here, and when you compare it to its old friend here, Enigma Drake, yeah, there's really not much difference between these two, except for the fact that Spellheart Chimera has Trample, which I guess can come up every now and then. Enigma Drake is 4 toughness, which may matter. There might be a version of this deck that I build down the line where I swap out the Chimeras for Enigma Drakes just because the 4th point of toughness matters, but I don't know. Let's look at any other Drakes. Nothing looks really fascinating here. Yeah. Okay. That's a start. Not throwing too much in the sideboard yet because, again, don't really know what I'm sideboarding against here, but we've tried to limit ourselves as a part of this challenge to stay between 15 to 20 minutes or so. And so just kind of quickly put together something that can be a good idea or proof of concept of a deck and just see where it takes us. Now, once again, this is not going to be the final form of this deck. If I do end up playing a version of this, I mean, I loved Viezit Drake's deck in Guilds of Ravnica Standard very recently. A lot of these cards are from there. So, yeah, I think this is a really good starting point, just with some upgrades from having Dig Through Time, Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Although, really, if you look at this deck, this is pretty much legal in relatively recent Standard. In fact, this might be a historic legal deck now that I think about it. Huh. Let's try and look around and see what other spells we can find. I'm going to search for the 1 to 2 mana and just kind of see what there is. Because one of the biggest hurdles right now is once you play Modern enough, you know what are good Modern cards. You don't know as much what are the best Pioneer cards yet because we just haven't played it. So ooh, Curious Obsession. I feel like that might be just another deck entirely, though. The mono blue deck may end up being really good too. Something like a mono blue Devotion mixed with the mono blue Tempo deck that ultimately I think won Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica or Mythic Championship one. Censor is a thing. I don't know how much of a thing that really is, though. Censor was barely playable in its standard, but again, there's so much more context that we have to kind of figure out here. Now I'm just kind of double checking my work, seeing if there's any kind of strict upgrades to this that I might be missing. The only thing that's concerning me as I'm looking through this deck right now, and as I glance through it, is realistically short of Jace and Magma Spray and Dig Through Time. This is a deck we could have played, assuming the Spellheart Chimeras were Enigma Drakes. As cute as Goblin Electromancer is, we're looking at our mana here. We have a bunch of 1-drops. 2-drops are relatively solid. The 3-drops have their own discounts. Maybe just put in a couple more creatures. Maybe get the Spellheart Chimera back in. Round that up to an even 4. How does that look? Nah. It's a place to be. I think, again, we just need to go back to our old point of drawing cards and doing good things with that. And there's so much in this format that's just like, yeah, that's just worse than Winged Words, especially if we can get a Chimera out. Part of me did want to live to the dream, though, with Goblin Electromancer and any one of our flyers and just be able to Ancestral Recall, which I think is really cool. But that's also Magical Christmas Land, so maybe just putting some more straight up card draw and cheap spells that let us kind of keep flying through our deck are a little bit better. I'm generally not thrilled with Merchant of the Veil here, so I'm actually just going to take this out. Like, Merchant of the Veil just does a worse job of being faithless looting, and I'm kind of Oh, Slip Through Space. Now, Slip Through Space can be a nice, cheap interaction that helps us let's move this out of here. Slip Through Space can actually help our Crackling Drake just smash in for a huge amount, and seems to be just the kind of spell we need. Okay. I feel like this is solid. Still not 100% with it, but I feel like this is as good as I'm going to get with this core in the allotted time frame. So let's throw together some kind of sideboard here. Starting with Leyline of Combustion. This is a card that Dalton has been hugely high on recently, and I've actually seen showing up in Modern in the main deck, just because it helps give you a little bit extra damage, and for a very removal heavy deck that we face against, something like a Jund or a black-green style deck, Abrupt Decays, all that stuff, we want to punish them for getting rid of the few creatures that we have in here, so Leyline of Combustion would be really good in that spot. Okay, and I guess some more Magma Sprays for the sideboard, just kind of round out the playset in case we need to be a little bit more removal heavy. It's a nice little upgrade to Shock. And I guess Kozilek's Return is just like the Pyroclasm for our format. Again, right now I'm more hedging this against the early metagame being very aggressive creatures, mono red decks, Soulscar Mage, those kinds of things. And just want a nice, efficient way to be able to clean them up. But let's jump through this. So yeah, let's take a quick look at the deck. Starting off with Bunch of blue-red lands, Opt, Slip Through Space, Magma Sprays, Radical Idea for card draw, along with Thrill of Possibility, 3 Jaces because it's amazing, Spellheart Chimera, Winged Words, Arclight Phoenix, Crackling Drake, and Dig Through Time. This seems like a lot of value. I think that this can hold up. We'll see how it goes. Ultimately, time will tell, but this is my rough shell for a Izzet Drake style deck. I'm sure there will be plenty of tweaks to this, and I'm sure I missed something. So if you have any comments or suggestions for how this deck can be improved from this original state, I definitely do want to run this through a Pioneer League at some point after I've done some tweaks to it, and I would love to hear what you guys all have to say. So feel free to drop a note in the comments. What cards did I miss that you would have put in here? What are strict upgrades to other cards that are in here that I might have missed? And let me know so that we can have a really sweet Pioneer video down the line. With that, make sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell so that you can be notified whenever any of these videos come up, because I know we're planning on putting out quite a few of these Pioneer brainstorming videos. So thanks for coming out. We'll see you guys next time.